Good afternoon. My name is John Daly, and I'm here today to talk with you about dining etiquette and why it is so important. Dining etiquette is important because it is a chance for you to get to know your future employer, not only your future employer, but other people that you may be meeting along the way to promote your career. And it is just a very important thing to do to have dining etiquette, is because when you are seated with other people, it's important that you show that you have good dining etiquette in the way that people will care about having a meal with you and sharing a meal with you. I'm going to explain to you how a semi-formal table is set. On the left-hand side of the plate, you will see that you have and the plate obviously is the first thing. That's right in the very center. And next to the plate on the right-hand side is the dinner fork or dinner knife, excuse me. And next to the dinner knife is called a teaspoon. That teaspoon is used for coffee or tea only. It is not used to eat your vegetables with, or your potatoes or rice or beans. It is there strictly for coffee or tea. Sometimes it is used for dessert, but not always. Next to that is a soup spoon. And that soup spoon is used obviously for the soup. And then on the other side of the plate, on the number 5, is your dinner knife or dinner fork, excuse me, I'm sorry, your dinner fork. Next to the dinner fork is your salad fork. Now, the way to remember how to use these utensils is you always go from the outside in. So the first time they bring you a liquid, you would use your soup spoon, which is from the outside going in. And then the next time they bring you a solid food, that would be your salad fork. And that is when you use that fork. And then your main course, you use your dinner fork and your dinner knife. Above the dinner fork and salad fork is your dessert, or excuse me, your bread and butter plate. And your bread and butter plate is there along with the bread and butter knife that is set right on top of that plate. On the right-hand side, above your dinner knife, is your water glass. And the water glass is always right above the knife. And next to that would be a wine glass, if you're drinking wine. Or if you're not drinking wine, you're going to see that it's set at the table. But if you're not drinking wine, you can always ask them to remove that glass. Next to the forks is your napkin. And your napkin will go in your lap as you are seated. So here's a setup of it. So you see your salad fork, your dinner fork. Across here is your dinner knife and your teaspoon or coffee spoon. And then next to that is this soup spoon. And you see the water glass right above your napkin here is placed on the plate. It will sometimes be placed on the plate. Now, what I would suggest is that you take your hands and you put your fingers together, your index finger and your thumb, and put it together and hold it down, and you will see that you have a small B for bread and butter on the left and a small D for drink on the right. So you always know which side your bread plate is. Okay? When you are seated, gentlemen, always help the lady to your right to be seated. If there is an older woman at the table, it is best to seat that person first. And the older it goes sort of in chronological order. If there's older people, help them to be seated, and then seat the lady to your right. Gentlemen, help any other lady at the table that does not have a gentleman near her. That's just a nice, proper thing to do. Ladies, always allow the gentleman to help you be seated. Once you are seated, the napkin goes directly in your lap. And you open up the napkin so it's halfway open. So you have the folded part of the napkin goes towards your knees, and it stays on your lap the entire time that you are seated at the table. It's not put away or discarded after you finish your meal. Keep the napkin in your lap until you're ready to leave the table. Getting ready to order. To signal your waiter or waitress you're ready to order, close your menu and place it in your lap or to the left of your place setting. That's the signal that will tell the waiter that you are ready to order. If you are being hosted by someone or treated by someone, they're going to pick your meal, always go very middle of the road cost-wise or below, middle of the road or below cost-wise. That will show the person that is treating you that you're not there to take advantage of them. If they have a suggestion for you to order off the menu, then order that if you like it. If you don't like it, then of course don't order it. But you want to not make order food that you've never had before, because you don't want to embarrass yourself and the host by ordering something that you did not like. And so just be sure that you order some food that you are familiar with. When the waiter comes to take your order, look the server in the eye. Be sure and do that, because that shows respect to the server. And say to the server, "May I please have," and whatever that happens to be. Always give your server recognition and treat them with respect. It's a big deal. I've been at meals with people where they did not serve or treat the server with respect, and it is very disconcerting. It is, you don't want to have anything to do with that person. As a matter of fact, I will tell you a quick story about a time that I was interviewing someone to be president of my company. And as I was interviewing that person, I decided in every way, shape, or form they were perfect for the job. And I asked them to meet me at a very nice restaurant to give them the final test. And that was having a meal with them to see how they treated the waiter or the waitress and how they acted at the table. Well, this person that I had decided was going to be perfect treated the waiter with such disrespect that I decided that this was not going to be the person. He came to the waiter came to the table, and this gentleman or person that I had been interviewing said to the waiter, "Get me this and get me that, and I want this and I want that." He did not look at the waiter at all. He didn't pay any attention to the waiter. He just looked down and said, "Get me this and get me that." Also, this person asked if I was going to drink wine at dinner. And I said, "No, I don't drink. I don't drink alcohol." And he said, "Well, may I see the wine list?" And I said, "Of course." And I handed him the wine list, and he looked at it and ordered a bottle of wine, which was in very poor taste since I don't drink. He ordered a bottle of wine. In top of it, the bottle of wine was $180. So he ordered a bottle of wine for $180 and proceeded to drink the entire bottle of wine himself. I did not hire this person. They lost a job. They lost the job that they were assured to have. And the salary for this person was going to be very, very high. And they lost a very good paying job just because of the way they treated the waiter, number one, and number two, drinking a full bottle of wine at a table where I was not a drinker myself, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't have ordered a glass of wine. They could have ordered a glass of wine and that would have been acceptable. But to order a bottle of wine that was that expensive showed me that this person would be the type of person that would take advantage of my company. And I didn't want that. So when you order your food, look at the waiter in the eye, like I said, and say, "May I please have?" Treat the waiter with great respect. While dining, do not start eating until everyone at the table has been served. It's very important that you do that. No matter how many people are at the table, if 2/3 of the table have been served, if it's a very large table, then you could go ahead and eat and start eating your food before it gets cold. If the host has not been served, wait for the host to be served. And the host should be the first person to start to eat, and that gives you the signal to go ahead and start eating. You want to cut meat in small bite-sized pieces, one at a time. Place the knife at the edge of the plate with the blade facing in before using the fork to put the piece of meat in your mouth. Take small bites. Business dining is not about eating, it's about conversation. And it's very important that you are able to speak at any time. So you don't want to have a big honking piece of meat in your mouth where you're still chewing because you don't want to talk with your mouth full. So you want to speak with an empty mouth. Here's the way that you would go about cutting meat. You take the fork and pierce the piece of meat that you're going to eat and cut that one piece off and then put it into your mouth. One bite at a time. Do not go through and cut up your whole steak. Cut or your chop or whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you're eating, don't cut it all up at once and then start eating it. Cut one piece at a time. If you leave the table during the meal to excuse yourself, maybe to go to the restroom or whatever, you get up and you excuse yourself and you put your napkin on your chair. push your chair back under the table. And that leaves it easy for another person or a wait staff to be able to get around the restaurant. So be careful about that. You want to definitely push your chair under the table. Eating well at a table shows an awful lot about your personality and yourself. What it does is it shows that you have been taught very good manners, and that's very important that you do this. I'm going to stop the screen share and just speak with you now. It's important that you have good table manners because your table manners talk a lot about what the type of person that you are. And if you're going to be a person that works with the public a lot and be selling perhaps, then you definitely want to make sure that you have good table manners. Good table manners are premier because people will notice that you have good manners and you represent your company or yourself, you represent much better than if you don't do it properly, if you don't eat properly. I had a person one time that I was eating a meal with, I was sharing a meal with a person that I was going to mentor. And while we sat down, he ordered a bowl of chili. And he proceeded to eat this bowl of chili with his hands. He scooped out a handful of chili out of the bowl and fed himself with it. And after he did that, he grabbed a napkin and wiped his hands off and then threw the napkin on the side of the table or on top of the table, but to the side, and had a big pile of napkins growing, which was a bad sign. And I said to him, I'd like to teach you something that I think is going to help you in the future. I did show him how to hold the spoon and hold the spoon properly and how to feed himself out of the bowl. This was a very important lesson for him. And when we left the restaurant, he said, I want to thank you because no one has ever taken the chance or the time to show me how to do that properly. It's very important that you do that. Now, when you're passing at the table, you're going to most likely have bread. So when you pass, someone asks you for the bread, you pass them the bread first and then help yourself afterwards. So you would always pass the bread basket to the right. If the person on your left asks for the bread, then of course, pass them the bread first and then pass it to your right. Help yourself and then pass it to your right. Put the bread on your bread and butter plate, and then the same goes with the butter. As the butter goes around the table, it should always be going to the right as well. And take some butter and put it on your plate. Don't put it on your roll, directly on your roll. Put it on your plate. Break the bread apart into small bite-sized pieces. That's the important thing. Don't bite it. Don't cut the bread in half with your butter knife. Don't cut it in half and then slather the butter on either side, either piece. You break the bread into a small bite-sized piece and butter each piece just before you eat it. Eat the bread and make sure that it's not a great big piece, because remember, you want to keep your mouth pretty empty so you can have a talk. Now, also at the table, there may be a glass, like a glass of water here. What you want to do is, if there's a toast, you would say, "Happy birthday to Mary Jane." And everybody salutes Mary Jane with their glass and clinks glasses. As you clink glasses with someone, you always look them in the eye. And then you drink. Look them in the eye, toast. And if the person, Mary Jane, whose birthday it was, would toast everybody and then put her glass down, she would not drink on that toast. She would wait until everybody took a drink and then take a drink herself after everyone has had a drink. Otherwise, what she's doing is toasting herself, and she doesn't want to do that. If it is in another case where somebody raises their glass and says, "Happy New Year, everybody," everybody would raise their glass and say Happy New Year and clink glasses. And as you clink, make sure you look the person in the eye as you clink, and then take a sip. Always take a sip on a toast. Otherwise, you're saying to the host or whoever the person is that made the toast, you're saying that the toast is not worthy of you to take a drink from. And that's an insult. So all these little things that you need to know, especially with going from the outside in with your utensils. All that no matter how many forks or how many knives there are, always go from the outside in and you won't be stumped. At some really formal meals, there'll be several knives and several spoons, and you want to make sure that you're not messing those up. So take them as they go, but always from the outside in, as the different courses are served to you. Okay? Now, the importance of treating a waiter well also comes to the tip at the end of the meal. If you are paying for the meal and your service is good, then you definitely want to leave a tip. If the service was not good and you don't feel a tip is worthy, I understand that. And I don't think that you should leave a tip if the service was bad. But if the service was good, you should leave 20% of your bill. So take whatever the amount of the bill is before the tax. Before the tax, that's the important thing to remember. That you don't tip on the tax. Tip before the tax. And so if it's $100 before tax, give the person a 20% tip, and two into 100 or 20% of $100 is $20. So you would tip them $20 for the meal. If the service was mediocre, you might want to tip 15% or 10%, but never below 10%. 10% and below is really kind of an insult to the waiter, and it's telling the waiter that the service was not good. So be careful of that. Always look at your check. Once you've gotten a check at the end of the meal, look at the check and make sure that it's yours. I have had many times come across when I've gotten a bill and it was not my bill. It was another person's at another table's bill. And I would just take a credit card and pull a credit card out and not check the bill beforehand. And I got myself into trouble. So you want to definitely check the bill and make sure that all the things that you ordered are on the bill. And if not, you can bring it to the waiter's attention that they didn't charge you for one dessert or maybe iced tea or something along that line. You don't have to spend an hour checking the bill. You can look it over pretty quickly and figure it out. But it's important that you check it. Also, it's important if you've used a credit card, make sure that you bring your receipt with you. Because when you put down the tip, you want to put the number of the tip as close to the dollar sign as possible. So if you're tipping $20, it will say gratuity or tip, and there's a line for that. Put the 2 as close to the dollar sign as possible so it can't be changed. And total it out. Make sure you total out the bill. I have had instances where I did not keep the receipt, or I've kept the receipt and I found that the bill was changed. And you're not going to find that in most restaurants. Most good restaurants are not going to do that. However, mistakes do happen, and you don't want to be the person that has to pay for a mistake. So check it out. Be very, very careful. So when you, after you get your bill and you get your credit card statement, you can check your receipt against the credit card statement. It's a good idea. There's been many mistakes made, and it's good to know when a mistake has been made, so you're not footing the bill for somebody else. When you're requesting a table at a restaurant, when you call for a reservation, you'll always want to give them your last name and for the reservation. You'll call in for the reservation and say you'd like a table for 2 or a table for 6. And if you have a particular place that you like to sit in the restaurant, this is the time to mention it to the person that's taking your order. You can say, I'd like to have the table over near the window, if there's a window in the place. And they'll grant you that table, hopefully, if they can. So it's important when you're making your reservation to do that. And also they're going to ask you for a phone number. So give them a phone number that you will be able to answer. A lot of times people will give them a home number and a home telephone number perhaps, and they're not going to be at home. They're going to be on the road and driving. So give them your cell phone number. That's the best in case they should have any problems. There's a number of things that I've covered today that I hope are going to be a good help to you, and that you will be able to put into practice in the future. I hope that this has been helpful, and I leave you today with this knowledge. Thank you very much.